Hi, I'm Paul. So, non-duality, or God, plate of sausages, whatever you want to call it. You can call it many different names, and many people do. But the one thing that it's based on is ultimate reality. I mean, that's the quest to find the reality. The one thing that seems to be not talked about very much is truth, finding truth. And I can see why, because it's quite uncomfortable for people. But a lot of people who are trying to find non-duality are what we would call truth seekers. People who are trying to find the truth, whether they know it or not. I think I was always one of them. I remember when I was younger, maybe about 18, I noticed that I was always making up excuses. And I'm going to avoid saying that the opposite truth is a lie, because even in non-duality, you can lie to somebody, but as long as you know that it's the truth, then you still know the truth and you know why you did it. But anyway, back to the story. When I was younger, I used to make up excuses all the time, lie to myself, whatever you want to say. And it wasn't really to like gain anything, but it was more to, for me to run away from my fears and anxieties. So, let's say, for example, a friend says to me, let's go to a nightclub, and I was always fearful of going to nightclubs. But instead of facing that I was fearful, I would make up an excuse and say, oh, I've got a poorly somewhere, I'm not very well, my tummy is really sore. Weirdly enough, I used to believe, just genuinely used to feel a sore tummy. Maybe it was worry, I don't know. But I noticed that I was doing this, so what I started doing, I had a close friend who was quite an understanding person. So whenever I noticed that I was making up these excuses, what I would do, I would quite literally do, was put up my hands and say, "Well, actually, that's not true." And at first, I still never used to face exactly why I was making up the excuses. It probably took about 6 months before it became natural to me to be able to recognize that I was actually making up excuses and that wasn't the truth. And I think a lot of us uh, do make up these excuses and don't really realize it. Sometimes it's so well hidden from us. I mean, really hidden from us. There's some examples. I've known a few people in the recent past who have been quite jealous people. Two of them I'm kind of thinking of, and they're not just jealous, but they're continuously jealous. And these two both, on different occasions, have said to me, you know, one thing I've never felt jealousy. I've never felt jealousy in my life. And the other one said exactly the same words. You know, one thing I've never felt jealousy. Somebody else who lies all the time. I hate liars. I can't stand liars. Even when I went to therapy, when I started understanding that people do this without even knowing it, I would say to my therapist, you know, I never really felt jealousy, I think. Mm. And I would look at him to wait and see his response. Just to see, because I was aware by this point that there's some things that are so well hidden that we just don't know. And it's easy to look and say, yeah, but they're only lying. But maybe they are lying, but they're not aware that they're lying. Or not aware that they're not aware. I was going through YouTube just before and I seen a video and it was titled Our Non-Duality Teachers Mentally Ill. made me grin, made me laugh. Uh, Firstly, we've got to understand where mentally ill or mental illness or difficulty mentally comes from. And it all comes from the ego. So it's all the stories in our head that we tell ourselves. Emotions as well. But I don't know if you've heard me talk about this in some of my past videos. I don't believe that emotions are particularly real. We certainly feel it, I know. But I think that they are just stories that we tell ourselves. And these stories are based on shame. So let's just say I'm sitting on a chair now, which I am, and I could feel the back of the chair against my back. So that's a feeling. And I would say that's real. That's a genuine experience. But then when my mind kicks in, I say, yeah, I'm sitting here, I can feel the back against my chair, but I should be doing something else. So now I feel guilt. So there's the emotion. So the emotions arise from what we think about. And I think all emotions are based on shame, even the good ones. So we've been kind of pushed in a direction to how we should behave to be the ideal human being, to be the perfect human being. And we base all this on our emotions. It's our emotions what keep us to these beliefs. So if I feel an emotion, then I don't know, let's say guilt, then I say I should be doing something else. So now I feel guilty. And it's this should. In psychology, we call it shoulding. We base ourselves on this image of the ideal human being, which has been programmed into us. And all of these emotions are pushed in specific directions based on I don't want to be uh, inadequate or not good enough or look stupid or whatever else. So I think all emotions really are based on shame. But because all of these stories of what we should be are kind of pushed into us from such a young age, we just don't question them. And then when we do something or think something outside of the box, or if we do get jealous, then we don't want to be that, I don't know, weak person, whatever you want to call it, who feels jealousy. Because then it reminds us that we are not who we want to be. So we hide it. We don't see the jealousy. And like I say, a lot of people, it's not that they're lying about it, it's just that they genuinely don't see it. And this truth, finding the ultimate reality, starts off with finding this truth. We need to be able to look inside of ourselves and question our ways that we're thinking. And, some things, like I say, that we can't really find in ourselves, but with practice, we can go deeper and deeper. There's a thing that Carl Jung talks about, which is the dark night of the soul. And I think what the dark night of the soul really is that the ego is like a shield. It protects us. So when we have emotions or a mind and we don't have a shield, it kind of feels like being like one big graze all over your body, that everything stings, everything hurts. So we have this shield. Some people call this healthy narcissism, or maybe even more narcissism. That we have this shield that makes up excuses and tells us things that help protect us from seeing our own inadequacies. You know what I mean? Inadequacies. I'm not going to repeat it again. So yeah, we have this ego, the shield, what protects us, but it also diverts us away from finding the ultimate truth. So we do have to be able to face some of the truths. I was on about the dark night of the soul, wasn't I? Yeah. So the idea is this shield is protecting you from a part of you that doesn't want to feel it, which is, as far as I'm concerned, the right hemisphere, because the right hemisphere is the one what feels most of the emotions. So it's trying to protect from that. And when the shield falls away, then everything becomes painful. And I think that's what the dark night of the soul is. So at this point where the shield face falls away, you start to see the truth. And it does hurt for a while. Like a sense of the loss of reality being somewhere in the middle where you're starting to find the real reality. Some people do have to go through this, some people don't. I mean, some people have like crossed over to non-duality within a click of a finger. And I think that most people do have to be able to find the truth behind the shield, what they carry, protecting themselves. Anyway, I think that's all I've got to waffle on about. Thanks so much for listening.